Along with individual experts, Surgeon Masters brings you life improvement strategies in 10 minutes. These proven principles and strategies are easy to learn and can be applied immediately, allowing you to practice your best. Here's your host, Jeff Smith.
On this episode of the Surgeon Masters mini podcast, my guest is Alan Reznik, a board-certified orthopedic surgeon, arthroscopic surgery, and sports medicine. He's also the chief medical officer at Connecticut Orthopaedics. Welcome, Alan.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Curious what you wanted to share with others about today.
Well, today, we talked about different things in the past. I mean, this is our fifth podcast on things about people and how you handle them and different thoughts about the ways employee relationships work and your own relationship with your work. And one of the things we didn't really touch on was like, how do you hire a good employee? How do you make a hire successful, and how you decide someone's going to work out in your organization? And sometimes making a good hire really can boost everyone's morale, and making a bad hire can really destroy everyone's morale. So I think that some of the tips on making a good hire are probably crucial to a successful organization.
And so I'm hoping that it's not just trial and error and good luck or bad luck. Hopefully there's some things you've learned over the year.
Well, it was trial and error and good luck and bad luck at first. And there was a lot of crash and burns. And there was a rule that you had in business school. They used to say, hire slow, fire fast. And the people who would ignore the fire fast rule always had a lot to pay for, because a bad apple can really ruin the whole bunch. But when I interview people, and I have my staff, I've trained them to do this. I interview people for jobs. We really have kind of a little bit of a rubric about how to go about it and things we look for overall that help us make a better hire. And when we bend the rules and ignore the rule book, that's when we often get in the most trouble. So, that's some of the things I wanted to touch on today with you.
Well, tell us a little bit about just setting up the interview, or what you do as your first step.
Yeah, the first step, obviously we have a job description. We do the usual stuff. We know what we're looking for, whether it's a medical assistant or a director of physical therapy or some higher level job or just a nurse to work with a doctor. So we have like the idea of what the job is, right? And then you look through the resumes to find out who you think might be qualified. And then we usually go through the next phase of it is we usually try to figure out a way to be sure that the skill set matches the job. Now, sometimes that's like a pre-interview situation where we might have an actual test that we have them do. A lot of companies do this online now. There's different ways to do it. There are actually websites that help you do this kind of thing where they give you a skill evaluation. Or sometimes we have our own tests, that we've kind of cooked up on our own. And you get a coder and you give them the code book in a room in a half hour, and you give them 6 coding questions, and you want them to report back the 6 answers. And a lot of people fail that right off. They're trained coders. They've coded for years. They blah, 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 blah. They tell you all the stuff. Their resume looks amazing. And you give them the test, and 3 out of the 4 they've gotten wrong, or they just can't even do it. They don't even know where in the book to look for the codes, and you just throw those people out right away. And I don't mean in a bad way, but it's just they just don't have the skill sets they say they have. And then once you get past that, then you want to meet with them and talk with them and get a sense of what their vision of the job is, and then a sense of your vision of the job, and see if they match up. And there are other little tells when you see them, watch them come in the room to sit and engage with them. And that's also important.
So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So like some of the things I like, and I like this concept, is someone either sits forward in a chair and sits back in the chair. And I love that idea because it's a simple thought. And here we are, the person walks into the room, and they're going to be the head of therapy, let's say, and they make themselves comfortable, cross their legs and lie back, and they just kind of roll back in the chair, and they kind of, throw their arms at the side, and they look very relaxed, and they're sort of engaged in a very lazy kind of way in my mind, right? And the other people would just sit forward and look you in the eye and look like they're ready to do something. It doesn't matter what they're going to do. They look like they're ready to do it. And so I think that's the simplest test. How do they walk in the room? Do they walk in and they're not slouching, and they're not, kind of stumbling over the chair and get down, and they have some confidence walking into the room. And then are they looking at you or looking at other things? Do they show genuine interest? You want a little bit of intellectual curiosity in an employee if you want them to work in a positive way in your organization. You want them to question a little bit what's going on and move things forward with you if you want to move things forward. So that's important. So, and then the next thing is like, are they a good fit for your organization? If you look at them and you listen to them and you watch their interactions with you, And in your mind, you're saying, are they going to be a good fit with the 25 other people they're going to work with? And you sometimes very easily have that sense, this guy is not going to fit in, or this person or this woman's not going to fit in with the rest. So looking for a good fit is important. And then there's kind of the personality part of it. You want to look at some little more fine details of that as well.
And what's the next steps?
So then you want to make sure the person is really representing who they are. I think there's a comedian who does this joke about, it's great, because when you date someone, the first person you date is their representative. And then when you actually, get together, marry them, and you meet the real person, you say, what happened to the guy who represented you that was me dating me for all this time? Where's that representative, the good guy who's represented you the best way possible? But now I got the real person. Maybe representative wasn't a fair measure of who you are. So I always like to see that the curriculum vitae of the resume matches the person, right? So the next layer, and I used to do this in the medical school interviews for the residents, when the residents were coming in, they have a resume with 15 papers on it that they were the second and third author on, or fourth author, or fifth author, or first author even on. And lots of times I got the sense that those people were put on it because they did something, but if you actually asked them in depth about the project, they didn't know anything about it. So I would pick one or two and ask them some questions, and I would find out very quickly if they actually did any of the work, or they were just thrown on because they were in the lab standing around and they thought it would be good for their resume. And so I always like to see if there's something on the resume I can pick up on that I might even identify with. Oh, I used to do woodworking, or, I like to take photographs of sunrises, and I might like to do that too, or a kayak or whatever. Or a specific skill set that they need for the job. I'll ask them some general questions about it, and then maybe some fine questions about something they may have said to me, and then maybe a hypothetical about what would happen if. All to see whether the person has the thought processes in that go along with the skill set they claim to have.
Well, Alan, I'm going to ask you two hard questions that probably for you, they won't be hard, but because you're so good at storytelling. What was your funniest or most interesting hiring story? And what was one of the hardest lessons learned or challenges?
The funniest hiring story, so it's like, I don't know if there's any that are really funny and a laugh, ha-ha sound. It's funny that...
Or in a celebration way, maybe.
Yeah, maybe a celebration. No, I think sometimes it's funny that my staff will meet someone and tell me how wonderful they are and go through this whole rigmarole. And it turns out that I've worked with them 20 years ago or 30 years ago, and I actually really liked them, and I thought they were really going to be good employees then, and they were good employees now. And the reverse, right? I think I get surprised both sides. I think no matter what you do, you will get surprised. We had one person that worked with me that was lovely with the patients, and she was delightful and pleasant, but she didn't have the skill sets to really do the job. And she got through the screen somehow, and it didn't make any sense. And she got a lot of recommendations, and she had some additional skills that we thought would be helpful that she really did have. And after 6 months, I just said to someone, I said, I've tried everything I can to encourage this person to get them to where they need to be, and it's just not happening. So the good fire is the best thing you can do. Sometimes better than a good hire even. It's a strange thing, because a good fire, the good employees actually thank you for doing it, because they've been making up for that person on the side, trying to make everything work despite the fact that they have one tire that's flat on the car. They're still running the car. And they're often relieved that you did it, as bad as you might feel about it. And sometimes the person you fire actually is relieved too, because they haven't been doing a good job. They know they're not doing a good job, and they'd be better suited for something else. And you're just giving them the opportunity to find the other thing that they would be good at.
Well, that's excellent. Why don't you give our audience a bit of a summary of what you think about hiring good people?
I think you could ask yourself as the employer the question of yourself, like, if I hired this person a year from now, what would success look like? And then if you can think for a second of what that person was capable of doing and their skill sets and what a successful year would look like for them, and then you realize that's what you need, then I think that would be the ultimate sniff test, right? That you can see that in your head. If this person is here a year from now, A, B, and C will be better, and this person will be happy, and I'll be happy with their work.
That's a fantastic summary. There you have it. This is Jeff Smith, along with Dr. Alan Reznik. Until the next episode of Life Improvement Strategies for the Surgeon Who Wants More. Ciao.
Now, take 10 minutes and put your plan into action to practice your best.